Happy Friday! So today, Functional Friday, we are going to put a little bit more attention to some of the mobility demands of the big joints of the body, in specific the shoulders and then also the hips. So each protocol today, we've got 3 sections. Section 1's got 2 movements. The first movement is going to be completed with 12 reps per position, and the second movement is going to be timed 45 seconds, and then we'll repeat that same protocol for section 2 and section 3. Important concepts today is pushing our joint to the end range of motion. So this is how we're going to make mobility permanent. We do so by actively getting into that position versus passively. So actively means I'm using my own capability and ability to actually get there and hold myself there versus having somebody push me in that position or using a wall or the floor to get a deeper stretch. Okay, so we've got the archer push-up. Now, the degree as to which you move is going to be dependent on your own personal strength and your own personal capacity. So what is important to note here is that it's going to be an asymmetrical load in the push-up position. So traditional push-up, we're going to push down equally on both hands, versus today, we're actually going to lean over to the right hand first. I'm going to descend back up, and then we're going to move over to my left side. So I'm still trying to keep as much weight as I need to on both hands to make sure I'm able to do this. However, I am biasing one side. The second movement in the first round is the single leg glute activation drill. So I'm going to bias my left leg. I'm going to put all of my weight onto my left leg, and I'm going to assume a semi-squat position, kind of like a quarter squat or a half squat. Important to note that I'm not starting from the knee, I'm starting from the hip. So I'm pushing my butt behind me to load this. If I just push my knee forward, I'm going to put a lot of pressure on the knee joint. Okay, so loading through that hip first. Now, I'm going to take my free leg, or my right leg here, and I'm going to tap. And now the important thing here, we talked about that range of motion, that end range, is I'm trying to get this leg as far away from this one as I possibly can. You'll notice that it really changes the dynamic of the load depending on how far this leg is or is not. This would be 45 seconds on this leg, and then I would switch over to complete 45 seconds on this leg. If you would like to make this a little bit more challenging, yes, you can get into a bit of a deeper position. Moving into the second round here, we're going to perform a bent over high row. So similar to the other bent over row positions, you are assuming that deadlift position to start. Now here, you're going to grab either your weights or household items, and we're actually going to be pulling so that the elbows are staying in line with the shoulder versus close to the body here. So I'm going to grab my weights. Again, I'm going to start from my standing position, push back through my hips, load the glutes, load the hamstrings, load the core, press the floor apart so I'm getting as much out of this as I can, squeeze the heck out of my weights or household items. I'm going to lift up through the elbows. I'm going to hold here for 1, 2, 3, back down. Again, thinking about that end range. So as I get up here, I'm squeezing my shoulder blades as hard as I can in their end range, trying to create that tension and also increase that range of motion that my body. All right, next up, we've got external rotation of the hip from the quadruped position, also known as pretending you're a dog and you're peeing on the fire hydrant. So we get down into that quadruped position, hands and knees, and before we do anything in this position, like always, we create tension. So imagine that you're pulling your hands towards your thighs, and your thighs towards your hands, so you get those deep anti-rotators fired on before going into something that could potentially cause us to rotate. So once I'm there, I'm going to lift one of my hips out into that external rotation and I'm reaching through what we call my end range. So I'm literally lifting as high as I possibly can through my hip, and I'm holding this for 45 seconds. Now you'll notice that there is a difference between lifting through my hip and then lifting through my torso. So we don't want to actually shift our weight onto this side so we're looking in a different direction. We want to isolate that hip so it's moving irregardless of the rest of the body. So again, looking from a side position here, creating tension, lift, 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 and reach through that hip, reach through that hip, reach through that hip for 45 seconds, and then you will repeat the same on the other side. And the last pairing for Functional Friday, the first movement here is a B stand deadlift, or it can be further progressed into a single leg deadlift. So I'm going to get into my nice athletic ready position, creating lots of tension through my upper back and through the midsection here. I'm going to load one of my legs, so in my case here it's going to be my left leg. Now, if I'm doing the B stance, what I'm going to do is place my feet together. I'm going to pivot on my heel, and I'm going to pivot on my toe. And this is going to give me a decent distance for where I should plant my feet. Okay? So now my working leg here is my left leg, and my right leg is along for stability and support. So it's kind of like a halfway between doing a traditional deadlift on two legs and then going straight into a single leg deadlift. So from this position now, I'm going to break through my hips, and I'm going to stretch out the back of my left leg here, getting to that position where I really can't go any deeper. And if I don't have any external weights, then what you want to think about doing here is spreading the floor apart as hard as you can for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, standing back up. Squeeze your butt cheek and go back into that deep hip position. So I feel a nice long stretch in the back of my legs, and press out for 1. I'm creating my own tension. 2, 3, standing back up. Now, if you want to progress this, what you can do is actually go into full-on single leg position. So again, I'm loading this left leg here, and I am actually going to extend my free leg all the way out behind me, still trying to get that stretch through here, back up, and again. Back up, and again. Not touching down in between is going to create a lot of fatigue through here and even this lower part of my leg. All right, and lastly for today, again for the shoulder health of the actual shoulder joint and also the shoulder girdle, is external rotation from a laying down or a prone position. So you're going to lay down on the ground, and we're going to get our hands or elbows into this position of 90 degrees and creating tension through the rest of our body. So I'm going to squeeze my butt cheeks, keep my forehead pointed down, and I'm going to imagine that I am doing this position, okay? So with both arms, I am lifting up into what we call external rotation, and I'm holding this position for 45 seconds. Now again, I'm not just hanging out here, I'm actively trying to create new range. That's what the value of this movement will be. We don't want to artificially get our knuckles back here, because what happens is that the elbow will dip. I want you to keep those elbows nice and high when you're executing this so that you're able to get